Hello and welcome to the Gonna Talk, back again with you guys for another episode of what is our Let's Talk Arsenal series, joining you live on deadline day. And Arsenal haven't signed a single player, not one, not a jot has been signed today. We have seen some outgoings, and we're going to talk about that. But as we sit here at 2 minutes past 9 UK time in the evening, with just under 2 hours left of the window, no incomings, not even like a crazy rumor. The best we've had today is some random saying we might sign Cancelo. Like, that's it. That's all we've had. Genuinely, like, if there is something happening, it is the biggest secret that we have ever heard since, I don't know, like the Watergate tapes or something. I don't even know what that is. I just know that it's very secretive. That's all I know. Anyway, we are, for this show, joined by some of our members. We like to do this at the end of windows, have a chat to our members in the Discord server. So let's introduce my guest today. First of all, I was going to say my Chicago brother, but he's not even from Chicago, but I've met him there. It's James. How you doing, James? Good, Joel?
I'm as good as can be. I mean, at least we're getting some people offloaded, but it would be nice if we brought in, like you've been saying, a defender and maybe someone to go against Saka on the right wing. But at the same time, I think that will be all right. It's just, yeah.
that is the word. I think that is it. Yeah, that is it. That's how I feel about deadline day. Just a bit meh. But it is what it is. I'm just seeing the second half of West Ham against Luton kick off as well. West Ham leading 1-0. Unsurprisingly, I bet Lukonga's looking at that game and thinking, I can't wait to play here. Let's introduce a man who looks like he's watching the game right now. It's Marcus. How you doing, Marcus?
I am well, Tom, and you?
Yeah, are you watching the game? I can feel like your eyes are darting about all over.
No, I've got my second screen to see if there's any rumours, and there's not really much. So again, it's a from me.
Save your energy, mate, because the likelihood is, I'm afraid that nothing happening there. How are you though? You good?
Yeah, I'm doing well. Probably same as everyone. A bit deflated today, but we did some good business early, and I'm sure we'll discuss it a bit more in a minute. And I hope you are well too.
James, is that the goalkeeper kit you're wearing?
Yeah. I didn't.
I thought it was. Yeah, I didn't get the memo to wear black, as Alex is proving here. Certainly the odd one out today, unfortunately.
Yeah,
I was wearing my yellow Arsenal shirt all day because it's deadline day, so I was like, I'll wear yellow today, and it's got too warm now. That away kit, I think it's the away kit from the 21-2 season, the yellow one, and it's the material it's made from is like proper woolly jumper type material. That kit is terrible material that it's made from. But yeah, it's not to be worn in these warmer climates. But Alex, how are you, my friend? You good, Joel?
Yeah, not too bad. I've moved house today, so to be honest, I haven't kept up with anything. So
you've done more moving than Arsenal have done. I'm sorry, I couldn't help it. It was there.
Yeah. So I don't often wear Arsenal shirts. I've only actually got one, which is the yellow kit from about 5 years ago. That doesn't really fit me very well. So
which one's that? Is that the? It's not the one that Ozil signed in the yellow and blue. It's not that one, is it? Or
it is blue. Yeah. You know what? I can't even remember when I got it. It was that long ago. So.
That's 10 years ago now. Believe it or not, it is 10 years to tomorrow that Ozil signed. Believe it or not. So yes, prepare for a lot of Ozil memorabilia on social media tomorrow because it's going to be coming with it being that 10-year anniversary. But no, and moving anywhere nice. You don't have to give us your exact location, but
no. I'm moving from my temporary student accommodation to my house for final year of university.
Oh, nice!
I start in 20.
That move.
Yeah, I'm feeling pretty good because I've been staying in halls for the past. And halls is like I don't know how to explain that to people who are. Outside.
Yeah, it's like it's a complex. It depends really. Like I stayed in a complex which was like little flats when I was at uni in Nottingham, but I know some people have stayed in halls which are like little mini houses as well. So they do work as both.
But people don't want to hear about
that. Any excuse for me to reminisce about uni is I take it without a doubt because It's the best 3 years of my life, and I'm married now, so that gives you a bit of a sense of that. It was brilliant, to be fair. I miss it every day, but certainly what I don't miss is Arsenal not delivering on deadline day. And another year. We have done business on deadline days before, Partey, Tomiyasu, famously as well. But this year, James, nada, zilch, nothing so far in regards to incomings. How does that make you feel?
In years past, it's been it's been a little tough to take because we don't usually get deals done early on in the transfer window. But this year, it's hard to look at the transfer window as a whole and just feel let down because of the great business that we did early on in the window. Like, nobody saw 3 signings coming in the first 2 weeks, was it? Like that was insane. And to say that deadline day is a failure, it is and it isn't, because we got rid of a lot of dead wood. And granted, we didn't sell all of it. We at least loaned it out and got those wages off the books for a while. Now, granted, I don't know how much we're still paying for Lakanga and the likes for their wages, but at least it's offloaded and they're going to get minutes that they desperately need. And Okonkwo, I think, even going to Wrexham, I think he's better than League Two, but it's still nice to see him going somewhere, and he'll hopefully play most of those minutes since Foster retired again.
Yeah, it's difficult, Marcus, to be. It's difficult because I find myself thinking, if we'd have done the deals for Rice, Havertz, Timber, and Raya in August, everyone would be going, we've had an amazing window. We've just signed all these players. Yeah. But because it was done in June, July, the kind of the sheen of those deals has kind of worn off a little bit. I know it's not everything is gone, because I think Rice doing so well, and the excitement of Raya of what's to come is still there. But with the indifference around Havertz, the injury to Timber, Rice kind of just getting on with business and doing as he does, I feel as though the early business that we did has maybe allowed us to maybe forget, if that's not too strong of a word, but forget what we've actually done this window.
Yeah, I think it was somebody maybe on your show earlier. I think summed it up perfectly, that or maybe Minuma, I can't remember. I've seen so many shows today.
Minuma only speaks facts, so
exactly. So it must be Minuma.
Has a different opinion to me. That's the only time he doesn't speak facts. Yeah.
Or when you're talking Kearns, of course.
Yes, yeah. He doesn't believe.
Yeah, they said, I think if we'd done these deals within the last week or so, we'd be like, wow, what a finish. What a finish. What a transfer window. But because we've done it so early, it's exactly as you said. I almost forgot we've signed 4 players. It feels like they've been with us for last season as well. And when Timber got injured, it was just like, okay, sure, we've got a plan B now. We'll get this sorted. I mean, letting all these defenders go, and it's like, hold on, it doesn't sound like we've got a plan B. But I think a lot of the outgoings took up so much time and energy. They've just, I don't know whether it tied up money or just was that was the plan. Don't do anything until we've got rid of a load of players.
Well, yeah, my understanding of the situation is that Arsenal are quite frustrated with, in particular, kind of deals like Holding and Tavares. The Tavares and Nottingham Forest situation it's a very simple one. Forest are interested earlier in August, and Tavares is a bit like, I want to kind of see if anything else happens, and nothing did. So Forest came back, and then he was like, okay, I'll kind of take the move, and that happened. The Holding one's really annoying because Palace have had an interest for a while. You heard Roy Hodgson talking in his press conference earlier today about how they've liked him for a while, but Arsenal are a bit frustrated that then it's only materialised into a move, most of the way through deadline day, giving Arsenal little to no time or manoeuvrability with those deals that have now happened. So, the players that you're going to bring in to be able to transform your squad aren't found in hours. They're found in weeks and usually months, to be fair. So it was very difficult. And then, of course, we got the situation, Alex, with the likes of Pepe still here, Cedric still here. Lokonga is leaving. He's going to Luton on loan and a £500,000 loan fee, according to my colleague Kai Kanak at Football London. So how do you feel about all of that mess?
I think that, I find it really difficult to be frustrated. As people on the Discord server will know, I fight a lot for trying to be positive for the most part. But to be honest, yeah, I think it's really difficult to defend the window as a whole now, because you knew that Timber was injured, and yet Kieran Tierney, Tavares, they've all been let go, and I can't see Cedric playing inverted left back. Personally,
Please no.
To be fair, I remember him playing left back.
I remember him playing one switch against maybe Fulham or somebody like that.
Yeah, or Watford or something like
Watford,
that. Yeah,
some team, and people were like, "Oh, maybe that's it," and then of course it wasn't. But I think the Pepe situation is one where he's the only player who I think I'd say just cancel his contract, let him go, because I think it's such a hurtful topic for so many Arsenal fans that we've signed him for £72 million, whatever it was, around that mark anyway. That I think cutting ties is the best way to go, but he's still going to be here. I don't know what's going to materialise, but I can't imagine he's going to be playing. But maybe he'll have to now he's here. Or maybe he'll sit and take up a spot, or maybe we won't register him at all. But I think, we can't do much more now. And, we might have to turn to some young players in a season where we're playing more games than last season and we've got less players, which is the most frustrating thing. Is if we kept Kieran Tierney and we kept Tavares, you'd be looking at it probably slightly differently. Not saying that they fit the system exactly how we want them to, but you need bodies at the end of the day, and we're looking really, really light. And I've said for ages, almost sort of 4 seasons, that we need a striker. That's my opinion. I don't understand how when you get Jesus, who's got some injury problems, and you say, oh well, we've got Nketiah, and I think Nketiah, this is no attack on him, as I have in the past not thought he was that great, but he's proven me wrong. But I don't think that we can say with wholeheartedly that we're going into Champions League football and we've got Nketiah, Jesus, and then we've got 2 players who can play there. And it's like, well, people who can play there aren't going to get us into. I mean, we're in the Champions League to win it at the end of the day. Like people, I know, people will have their opinions, say we won't, but I don't see why we can't challenge on all fronts, and we're probably.
Well, I know why we can't, but I know what you mean in the sense of I don't, why we shouldn't be looking to challenge on all fronts. That should absolutely be the target, is that you've got a transfer window, you're at a really strong foundation, you should do everything you can to be able to put yourself in a position where you can challenge on all fronts. And the irony is, I really think that Jurrien Timber's absence has completely changed the perception of our squads. It absolutely transformatively changed the perception of how ready this squad is, because he was my signing of the summer. I know he was as well for a lot of other people. Really impressive in pre-season. I think another reason why maybe the people talked about last season's momentum of pre-season going into the start of last season, and why maybe Arteta chopped and changed. One of the big consistent themes of pre-season that may not have been in results, but one of the consistent themes was how good Timber was. So when you lose such a consistent figure in pre-season going into the season, I think that's had a really big impact on things. But yeah, it is disappointing. I think striker is something that I think will be looked at next summer. I think the marquee forward will be like the Declan Rice of this summer. I think that will be looked at for 2024, which makes a lot of sense. I think there'll be better options available maybe in a year's time. We'll have to wait and see. But yeah, it's going to be very interesting indeed. James, in regards to, we're going to do the whole ratings thing because we love putting a stat by something. So if you were to give, based upon incomings, outgoings, I suppose summer contract renewals involved, everything that's been happening this summer, what would you rate Arsenal's summer business out of 10? And you can use half marks if you like, because I'm kind.
initially, I would have said 8. I've seen some other people saying that in the chat. I still think it's pretty high. Like you can't blame the club for Timber getting injured. You can try and blame the medical staff if you want, but I think Tom's pretty well debunked that in the past.
Yeah.
So I still think it's probably a 7.5 at minimum. I mean, if you look at, like I said earlier, the Deadwood that we got rid of, and I love Rob Holding. You can ask any of my friends here. I call him Holdini all the time, and he's just one of my favorite players because you could tell that he loved playing for the club. But the fact that we got rid of him and we doubled our profit margin, or we doubled what we bought him for, it's still good business. Bringing in Rice, I think, even though it was 105 mil, if you look at Chelsea, I mean, but Chelsea's shambles. Like you can't really judge any stuff off of Chelsea. If you look at other clubs and the defensive midfield, for some reason, this window was just insane when it came to what clubs were charging for their defensive midfielders. Like, how much was Paulinho going to go for to Bayern? Which
around 50, 60, something like that.
Which is
50,
crazy
60.
because he's such a good defensive midfielder, and like he probably plays more of an 8, but that would have been a steal for Bayern had they got him. But sorry, getting back on track. It's 7.5 for me because of the incomings, even with Timber's injury, and the outgoings and the new contracts. I mean, signing Saliba to a new contract, I think, was probably our, next to Rice, our best signing of the summer.
Yeah. I genuinely find myself, and it seems weird to say, but it's because we all care about Arsenal so incredibly much. It's difficult not to be slightly emotional about losing Timber because of just how much he could have been for us. I pray that we don't have to suffer another similar situation, but I think, unfortunately, Arsenal's luck indicates that is almost an inevitability that we will face other serious problems over the course of the next 6 months. So, Marcus, out of 10, how are you rating it?
Until you reminded me about the renewed contracts, I was looking towards probably a 6.5, maybe even a 6. But yeah, the renewal of the contracts, we forget nearly all the big name players we've renewed and they're staying on. Saliba with all his, is he going to stay? Is he going to do this, that? And he's committed to the club, and all he says now, he's so positive about the club and the future of the club. So when you put that in, I'm probably looking at a 7, 7.5. Timber's injury, we couldn't have predicted that. We've had time to get someone else, but the focus getting other players out. Who is there out there? I mean, the last name I've seen today is Nelson, and not our current Nelson. Is the only player's name I've seen. Garcia allegedly blocked by Man City, and that's it. So I don't know what's happened with that, but yeah, I just think Saka's sort of competitor and another flexible defender, were the two positions I wanted. And Timber, who I know got a huge woof from your good self, that was just tragic, and that just, I think, completely threw us at the back. But to leave us with, is it 6 sort of defenders, if you take away, excluding Partey? Looking at last season, we know what happened at the end of last season. That's a real worry for me. And that's why, I've dropped it down to, probably around a 7. Whereas earlier on, I thought we were heading towards a 9, maybe more.
Yeah. No, I'm in the similar boat. I say we're at, for me, a 7 right now, and we were at a 9 with Timber, and I was thinking, if we get a forward in, we've had a perfect window. That's where I was looking. But the fact it goes from a 9 to a 7 just by losing one player, but also it's in a way, it's not only just losing one player, it's the inability to replace him, and also the fact we weren't able to get all of the players out that we wanted to. That said, there is still time in the Turkish and the Saudi Arabian windows that could lead to Pepe or Cedric, moving on. So we'll have to wait and see if that opens things up. Alex?
I mean, I think it's difficult, and I think the Timber, I think I agree with everyone. I think that the Timber situation has really put a downer on things, just in terms of, but I think that is one thing that I'll say about the versatility model, as it were, is where you've got players covering multiple positions, you can end up being short if players get significant injuries, because you're relying on somebody to, and with such niche positions as well, you're set, like, sorry, I've gone completely off topic again, but I think, yeah,
Okay.
I'll give you a number. I think 7.5, 7. I think it's like people say. I think it's difficult to give higher than that. I mean, like you say, you can't foresee the Timber situation, but you can. Once the Timber situation's happened, you can react to it by either saying, actually, we're not going to sell this player, or we're going to sign somebody.
Are you referencing Tierney there when you say that? Is that who you would say?
I would say Tierney, Tavares, either of those two. Not necessarily for the fact that they're going to come in and do exactly what Timber was doing, because I don't think they're capable of doing that. They have their own strengths, and people say what they want about Tavares. He can still play football. He wouldn't get to where he was if he couldn't. So Tierney is a difficult one for me. I love Tierney, but I also see that if we're going to play that model, it doesn't suit him in any way. It's not, that's not his game, is being inverted and joining the midfield. We saw what his game was in his first sort of season and a half, I'd say. But injuries and then managerial tactical changes. But yeah, I'd say 7.5. I think the Tierney one's really difficult to take now that we look at it at the end of the window and we haven't replaced anyone.
Yeah. The Lokonga going on loan is something I'm really worried about. The reason for that is just I feel as though we may, because it's a loan to Luton where he gets a lot of minutes, this season. I'm just worried about, the depth wise, if there is anything that happens that that loan might be looked back on as a decision that we may regret. Tierney is being looked at a lot like that as well. And I can see the reasons as to why. I do think with Tierney, there is a difference in that this guy really wanted to go, really, really wanted to leave and get regular game time, which I have to sympathise with. The reason I've got less sympathy on the Lokonga side is that, I think the expectations that Lokonga had about where he might be playing, similar to Pepe in some ways, as to why he's not moved yet, is that the expectations have gone wild. But he has finally kind of given into the idea that Luton, is somewhere he's going to get minutes, even though it's not the most glamorous of locations to go to. I'm hoping that we stay as injury free as feasibly possible for as long as possible. But I think we may end up looking back at some of these players. I'm really hoping that we don't, but I think we may end up looking back at some of these players and thinking, maybe we would have been better to keep them. But I'm hoping that I'm wrong, and I'm hoping that my instinct, which is that we were right to let Tierney go because he wanted to go get minutes and play, is the right position to stand in there. I'm just worried, which I think is obviously a natural feeling to have at this stage of the window. So yeah, I think we've all gone for a very similar kind of figure. From my perspective, and I want to kind of discuss also the fan reaction as well now, James, because I've seen a fair number of fans say like 5s and less, How do you feel about what this window represents for where the fan base was at maybe the start of the expectations? How do you feel about all of that and where some people maybe are reacting to it?
It's so hard to gauge expectation, because if you look back at the beginning of last season, we were all saying, if we just get top 4, it's going to be a phenomenal season, and we'll all just be happy to be back in the Champions League, right? And then you look at this season, and obviously just because of how well our young players, our young men on this team that we all love and support performed last season, we all expect to make a run in the Champions League and again challenge City for the title. It's going to be us and City for the title. Like, now, it's going to be meltdown if we don't get a win this weekend. It's not going to be fun, and everybody's going to hate their life for a week plus. But I mean, it's just I will. I don't know how you guys are, but if Arsenal doesn't do well, I don't have a good time. But when it comes to the fans' reactions, it's all going to be a week by week basis. So let's take Kai Havertz, for example. He hasn't done terrific in the first 3 games. We can all agree on that. But if he were to still get the start against United and bag 2 goals and play phenomenally, then I think everybody is going to change their perspective on him and be like, well, it's a great signing. But he still had 3 okay games and then just 1 game where he came out. And I mean, you can look at Vieira the same way. He came out for 35 minutes and had a great game. We are such a fickle fan base, and we will go game by game for every single player and judge every player game by game. It's always how it's going to be. I think the fans are just going to be the fans. Like, we're just going to be the same way we always are. We're just going to love the club and be upset if we lose and be happy if we win.
I can't even think about the game so much at the moment, and just everything's so kind of like focused in on transfers. You forget that we actually have to put the ball on the field and kick it about a bit because it's all happening off the field today. Marcus, yeah, the reaction is split. You know, I feel like the majority of, you know, the TGT listenership and especially the Discord are relatively chill, you know, about this. But there is hyperbole outside. Social media has been alight with criticisms, complaining. And to be fair, you know, you said that you might have gone as low as a 6.5 before you thought about the contract renewals. So I suppose maybe there's some empathy on your side for the slightly more critical side of things.
Yeah, I can see why they don't, because, you know, we just assume end of the window, we're Arsenal, we're one of the biggest clubs, we're going to sign someone. I mean, you see Chelsea going out and buying everyone and anything, but I think James hinted at it earlier but there's absolutely no strategy. It's just they're just throwing money around. There's no sense to it, and every player's on 7-8 year contracts, so that will bite them in the backside, so to speak, in the politest sense. It's crazy. But yeah, from our point of view, you know, we're big. We should be buying something at the end of the window. We should have got something sorted, but equally, you know, as you said, we got so many players we needed to move on. The focus was clearly to get moving them on, and Timber just totally threw everything out. And we, you know, I think the contract renewals is phenomenal. The likes of Saka, Saliba, you know, they're phenomenal young players. They're not going to be around for a couple of years and, you know, walk away. They're going to be here for a long time. So that was a brilliant piece of business. But it's just that, I suppose it's just a habit that we think it's the end of the window. We're going to sign someone. You know, I think you've said before on the show is, you know, the Tom Yasu, the Matt Ryan, they come out of nowhere. So we're thinking, do you know what? We're going to do it. We're going to do it. And yeah, as I keep glancing on the other screen, I keep wishfully thinking there's something going to happen, and no, nothing's really happening. Omar Rekik, I think it is, has moved on somewhere. That's about as much as it is now.
Justin here says 4 out of 10. We are a worse squad than we was last season. You see, they do exist, Alex. Yeah, I'm not making it up. It's harsh. I think it's harsh. I've seen other relatively low scores. I think I saw a 5 out of 10 earlier on in the chat box as well. And I'm sure there are others as well that are maybe staying quieter. James says 6.5 out of 10. So on the negative side of things, on the more critical side of things, do they have an argument?
Yeah, I mean, you know, I think people are entitled to their own opinion if that's what they feel. That if that's how they feel the window's gone for them, and I can see reasons why. You know, we've got positions where we're really thin. I think that's the interesting thing is you'd say that the players that we've signed have improved the squad, but we've let go of so much and probably haven't signed enough players to then say, oh well, you know, we've got Rice and Partey, which on the surface looks great, but underneath it, we're thin on the ground, you know. Yeah. And I think, you know, I'm not the biggest fan of Rob Holding, but he's gone, so we're looking thin in defence as well.
I genuinely think it's a bit mad that they've allowed Holding to go and Tierney to go and Tavares to go. Trying to think. Cedric looks like he's probably going to go. Is there anyone else I've forgotten that's gone from the defence? But
well,
go on.
I was going to say, I think that the one Tierney for me is an interesting one because I am not Arteta and I'm not a tactical genius in any sense of the word. However, I would say that Tierney could quite comfortably play the left side of the back three that we currently employ, where we've been putting. I mean, Saliba currently, not in the left back position, but as a left centre back, where he's played in the back three a number of times for us. So it's an interesting way in which we say that people can't get minutes or that they can't fit in because we only look at it from one perspective, and I think that Arteta would look at it from a number of different perspectives. But I think that's the difficulty we have is we also as fans, and I've only had a very small amount of insight from working with Bournemouth, but understanding how much goes into transfer deals and how long things take. I'm not saying this in a patronising sense. It's not meant to be like that. But
it doesn't come across that way, no.
People just won't. People just don't understand, like how much goes into we're looking at a 60-page contract for an under 16 to sign on professional terms. So then you think about how much you're putting in for, I don't know.
£50 million bid for Mo Salah, like that sort of
yeah. like if it's 60 pages long, that's how long the contracts are for scholars, roughly.
Yeah, I think it's a really good point, Alex, that you bring up about that, and it's something that I struggle with as well. Is trying to say things along the lines of, "I'm really sorry, but you don't quite get this." Like it's so hard to say it without coming across sound like an absolute dick. Like it's really hard to not sound like that when you say it. But I got that energy off Arteta in his press conference today when he was asked about whether or not he'd go back to the back four and if he was going to change the formation. And I'll read you the exact quote for those that missed it. But he says, I think we discussed formations in a different way. That's how he started the conversation. As soon as he said that, I was like, that translates to what you think of formations. You haven't got a clue what a manager of Arsenal thinks formations is. That's the way that I took that. And he said, I think we discussed formations a different way. In the other game, there were 36 different formations in the match. Against Man City, there were 43. So I don't know what formation you're talking about. For me, it's something very different. And then he was asked about why he's changed the defense this season. He says, the personnel is different. We played differently against Man City, and there were 43 different structures in different phases. Every morning I come from my house to Colney. Sometimes I leave at 6 and I need to wipe the windscreen because it's icy at 6 o'clock. Normally I go down one road because it's faster. Now it's 20 miles an hour. So sometimes I take a back road and then I go to the M25. But depending on if it's a school ride, then I take one exit. If it's after 7 o'clock, I take a different exit. One day I have a flat tire, and what do? You have to replace it and take a different road because the garage is there. So every game is a different story. I mean, I love the attempt at trying to make something that sounded complicated not simpler, genuinely more complicated by bringing in the roads analogy. But he tried his best he could to try and make it. He basically, in short, was saying, different games require different formations and different strategies and different personnel. Ironically, he's not actually changed too much about the formation system in the first 3 Premier League games, but he did from the Community Shield game, which was very different with, Havertz playing as centre forward. And I personally think that Havertz will feature this season at points as a centre forward, and we will see that come back. You might even, I tweeted out saying you might see that on Sunday. That wasn't with any inside information, by the way. That was just kind of a weird hunch, like, well, we might see him. But then, in Kessie getting called up to the England squad, I think maybe we're going to use that. James, are you okay? You getting attacked by animals there, or?
He's trying his best. I mean, I'm trying to listen to you, and he's just trying to derail me the whole thing.
Not a problem. But Marcus, do you feel it's ever that, like, do you know what I'm saying about it's difficult to say the words, like, as Alex was kind of saying there, transfers are really hard to do, and people maybe don't understand how they work, in the same way that Arteta there, when he talks about formations and systems and trying to say, I'm really sorry, but with respect, like, you don't get what I'm trying to do, sort of thing. Even there, I'm struggling to say it without sounding like an absolute dick. Like,
yeah. So in terms of formations, God, he's the one with the qualifications. He's managing one of the top clubs in the world. We're not. He worked with Guardiola, who many consider to be the best. So he knows what he's doing better than us. It frustrates us when we see Partey. I know is one of the ones that divides opinion. Put him at this quote right back that he isn't really, but he starts at right back supposedly. But it throws the other teams because they won't. Like last year, you almost knew the 11 we play unless an injured. Now it's like, oh, is he going to put Zinchenko? Is he going to put Kivior out? Is he going to do this? You just don't know what he's going to do. So if we don't know, how's the opposition? So I get it, and I do like the analogy of the roads and that because we don't always go the same route. We do things differently and so forth. So I get that side of things as well. So bit all over the place, but he knows what he's doing. Hopefully.
Breaking news that's annoyed me seeing it. Armel Bella-Kotchap, the German international and Southampton defender, is going to join PSV, who will face in the Champions League, on a straight loan. No option, no obligation to buy it, just a straight loan. And it's deals like that I go,
why?
It's there. That's the type of deal where I get a bit frustrated, and I can't defend, maybe miss that, because I think that Bella-Kotchap is a really talented young defender, and if he was there on a loan, why not add the depth? If we've got an injury to Timber, yes, I know he's not a versatile fullback, but what it does do is give you depth, especially if Saliba was to get injured, having a player like that is just there. So that type of thing irritates me. James, have I got a right to be irritated? Did you get irritated me reading that news out?
A little bit. I was going to ask you a question if I could. I've heard other people say big clubs don't really loan players. Like, how often do you see a Manchester City loan in a player? So how do you feel about if we were to loan in a player with not even an option to buy?
Yeah, I think if it's a necessity, you think about Liverpool last season signed, there was a Brazilian guy they signed, Arteta, didn't really play because he got injured. But teams do that if they've got a necessity to bring in depth, and those kind of, there are opportunities there. And we talked there about how complicated transfers was. Armel Bella-Kotchap was actually, I think, linked with Bayern Munich quite heavily, and that broke apart late this afternoon. And in the space that it broke apart, PSV have swooped in and been able to secure that loan deal. So that shows how quickly sometimes those loans can be sorted out. 21 years of age, played, I think, the majority of games for Southampton in the Premier League last season. I think it was one of their more impressive players of the bunch, despite them going down. 24 games he played in the Premier League last season. Did have a couple of injuries, a shoulder injury and a knee injury. But it's really difficult. I think loans can work. You're right in saying that Man City don't really do that. The main reason is because they've already got a squad that's silly depth, so much depth in. They lost Gundogan, and they didn't just buy one midfielder. They brought Kovacic and Nunez. They spent, I think, close to 100, more. I think close to £80 million doing those two deals. So that's what you're up against, isn't it? You're up against a team that not only replace a player but add another player, who's young and exciting as well. That's worth 50 odd million quid to the fold too. So, right. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I've just always heard so many different podcasters and YouTubers talk about things like, if you're a big club, you don't loan players. So I just wanted to get your take on it, because I'm all for it. If, like you said, if it's a must and you require.
I think if you're a big club, you try and do your absolutely everything possible to give you the best opportunity to perform at the top of your level.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't agree that big clubs don't loan. I would say that a club loaning a player isn't an indication of their size in any way, shape, or form. I think actually a club can be really shrewd with business. I know that people in the chat box are saying that Bella-Kotchap would play at PSV, and that's why they've managed to get that loan. I don't know their current centre-back pairing, so I don't know if he goes straight into their team. I don't know if the people saying it are saying it for that reason, but he probably is more likely to get more minutes at PSV than he is at Arsenal, I suppose. But it would have been interesting to see if or maybe even no, I've not heard anything to suggest that Arsenal made even an inquiry about that. So it's difficult to know without getting the inside info on what we've done today. That's what I think. Do you remember when Edu used to do those end of window, sit down with the media team and he'd talk through what we did? He did it in 2020. He did it in 2020 and 2021. I think he did it, but he didn't do it last year. And I imagine he's probably not going to do it this year either. But I think those types of things really help fans, even though they might disagree with what he says and think it's a PR stunt, which, you know, you can take whichever way. I think hearing what we've done, why we've done it, what we tried to do. He sat down actually with Football London and Kaya in the summer of last year and actually said about Rafinha and said, you know, we were basically told that we wanted Rafinha, but he only wanted Barca, so we pulled out. You know, that, and he was very open and honest about that. And I like that clarity. And I wish that we could give fans that clarity more often, because instead of us sitting here and going, well, you know, Barca are beating us to our target, or Chelsea are beating us, actually, no, this is what happened. And he's telling us what happened. It was, he only wanted Barca and he wasn't going to come to us. So it wasn't us being not good enough, or we should have done more to get the player. That's actually what happened. So I think we could have more depth. We're going to round the show off with one more round of thoughts. I'm going to try and pick out some comments from the chat box and throw them to you guys. Stanley says, Alex, do you think Arteta knew we were not signing another defender and that's why he has been tinkering with Partey? Or do you think it was because of the result of his tinkering that he accepted that we have enough?
Yeah, I mean, it's difficult. I think personally, I can't see him using Partey and thinking we're not going to sign anyone. I think personally he's done it because he thinks it's going to work for a tactical reason. And, you know, I mean, I see some merits of Partey being there. Personally, I find that difficult, but I'm not going to sit here and try and say that I know more than he does about it. So I'm sure there's a reason why he puts him there. I don't think that he could have known. You know, I think he's done it because he believes that Partey is good. But I think that tinkering is a good phrase to use, because I think that's what a lot of people feel like he's doing. But I think that he has a very clear idea in his head, and his coaches probably have a very clear idea in their heads about why people are playing where they're playing. But I don't think he does things thinking, oh, well, let's just try this for a game and see what happens, because you don't get to where he is today by doing that. And it's not something that he would have learnt off Pep or learnt off other players or coaches who he's been with. So I think it's difficult, but I think we just have to deal with the fact that, you know, if you remain the same in the Premier League, then you're going to begin to fall behind. So, yeah, there's going to be some times where we're doing things that are tactically a bit out there and we think, oh, what's going on? But that's how you learn at the end of the day. And, you know, tinkering or, you know, trial and error. Football's a lot about trial and error, a lot more than you'd think. You know, you become a super sub because people say, oh, well, we'll just keep putting him on and see what happens. You know, anyway, I could go on forever, but I'll let other people answer some questions. So.
Oh, that's fine, mate. That's absolutely fine. Let's jump into the chat box again. Let's go to, I mean, just quickly, anyone at all would have taken Sergio Ramos on a 5-month contract. Anyone want to be that guy? I don't think so. James is smiling a lot, but I think that's a no smile.
Did it be a black or red card replacement? I mean, that's the only question I have.
Yeah. I think he'd spend more time suspended than actually on the field, to be fair.
Suspended or injured. Yeah.
I love that question, James. Aside from against Arsenal or Luton earn any more points this season, yeah, that is a good question. Probably against us. Yeah, that's probably what it is. Well, I'm going to ask you from Clock Orange, and I'll link in another question about Timber as well. Do you think that there's any indication that Timber might be back early, and that's why there's been no signings?
I'm not Doc Raj, so I can't answer that for you. Unfortunately, I'm sorry. I do have a sister-in-law who is a doctor that specializes in the leg area. So, I mean, if you want, I can have her analyze all that stuff and I can get back.
Yeah, we'll get our access to Timber's leg and we'll see if we can get an answer on that. No, just in short, Doc Ra is telling us on the Eat, Sleep, Arsenal Repeat podcast on Wednesday that 7 to 9 months is the expected absence for an ACL. So that means at least March. But it could be May, so there's no guarantees about that.
Even if he does come back by March, how good is he going to be for March, April, or May? Right? Like, there's no. Would you get out of my face? There's no guarantee that he's going to be really Premier League.
That's fine. I don't mind him getting involved. It's great. You got my favorite breed of dog that I wish I could have, but I'm allergic. So yeah. It sucks being allergic to dogs, by the way, because I'm such a dog person. I'll ask you a better question because obviously the Timber was a bit unfair. As long as we manage the fitness of players in general, do you think that we'll be fine?
Absolutely. If we can stay, I would say even 90 to 95% healthy, I think that depending on who it is. Now, if we lose Saliba again, we're yet again screwed. I mean, everything in the back forward moves through Saliba. So if we keep him and we start to play Gabriel, which that's a touchy subject that I'm not really going to get into, our team will be perfectly fine. We'll finish second at a minimum, and I think that City are vulnerable this year.
No, they absolutely are vulnerable. Yeah. I look forward to seeing that game. I think it's going to be really tactically interesting when we play against City. Whenever, I think that's early October, that game. So yeah, I look forward to seeing what that is. Holdini says, how can Arsenal sell their most decorated player and fans be happy about it? Atrocious from top to bottom. Marcus, let me get your thoughts on Holdini's question regarding the sale of the criminal offence that is selling Rob Holding.
Oh dear. Well, for starters, it means one of your predictions is going to be gone. So between him and a Benny White screamer, that's that half gone. Yeah. I don't know. I mean, it goes back to some of the points earlier. With Timber going, could we afford to let go of Tierney and Holding, even if they're not necessarily how they fit into the team? It's a body and it's somebody that could have played. And as James just said, Saliba is just like godlike at the back. He's a massive blow without him. It's all right. Holdini is Holding, whatever you want to call him. He's a step back, but he would have been somebody that could have given Saliba a rest against maybe somebody of the quote lesser in the division. So, yeah, I can see where you're coming from, but in terms of levels, no, he had to move on. He's been a great servant, a great member of the club. I think Arteta always speaks highly of him in the dressing room. So from that point of view, yeah, good luck to him. But yeah, it's just the depth, which I think we all keep going back to, is the depth is what worries me. And from that sense, I'd have probably kept him or Tierney, unless, what's it now? An hour left in the window, unless there's some miracle where we're going to pull out that none of us have heard of. So
yeah, I doubt. Very, very much. No. We've got just over an hour to go, people. It's not looking good. Regarding Timber, I released an article that's just literally gone out just now, which you can read on the Football.London website in more detail. But Timber did undergo his surgery successfully about 2 weeks ago, and the player is expected to be in attendance for the game on Sunday. So if I see him in the mix zone, I'll grab him and say, are you meant to be back early? So we'll see if we get an answer. I doubt that we'll get anything. So yeah, there you go. Kudus is coming on, James. So you seeing this? We're getting live reporting from Luton Stadium here.
Yeah, I can confirm that Kudus is getting ready to come on. I'm not sure who for yet. We'll see when the board goes up.
Well, Luton have just scored to make it 2-1. There's only 3 minutes left. Yeah. Finally, Luton do get a goal. So in answer to your question, James, they will score against West Ham. So there you go. Won't just be Arsenal.
Not score.
Yeah, true. Very, very true. Right then, I think we're about there. Did I ask you a question, Alex? Did I get one to you, or have I been really ignorant?
Yeah, no, you asked me one first because you did a little reverse situation.
Oh, yeah, I did.
You can blame my dog for that.
It was an Arteta. He was switching tactics.
Oh yeah.
My brain, I was trying to tweet out my article at the same time as hosting a show. Like, it's kind of crazy. It's ridiculous. Same artist, Josh. Josh has wrote out the piece with the information. So much appreciated to Josh Holland for writing out that piece for me. Yeah, very good stuff, everybody. And Chatbox, thank you for tuning in. I'm sorry that we can't bring you the amazing news that you would have wanted in the form of a signing or any breaking news. But I'm hoping that we look back upon the window in the end as something that built towards something successful. We won't know until a little bit later on in the season, of course. We've just got to keep fingers crossed that as many players stay fit for as long as feasibly possible. Touch wood. But thank you to my fantastic panel. James, thank you to you. Tell people they can find you and your little one next, or not so little one, to be fair.
Just in the Discord. I appreciate you having me on, Tom. I'll be in the
Always
Discord.
a pleasure. Lovely stuff. Marcus, always a pleasure, mate. Thank you for coming on. Tell people they can find you.
No problem. Yep, in the Discord, Twitter or X, whatever it's supposed to be called these days, at MJC Gooner. And obviously, hopefully, at the next live show that we all can't wait for you organised, Tom.
Yeah, all right. We just finished this one.
No. The live face to face. I've got Peony Win in my ear, and my sat nav crew are demanding that you have another show. It's your own fault for it being so good last time.
Oh yeah,
I think look, it was a great event, and I loved every second of it. I think that next time we do it, we'll do it with a lot more planning and warning for people as well, because it was a very spontaneous event. But to get as many people as we did there in the space of a few weeks of shouting it out was great, especially on a Sunday evening as well. So yeah, I look forward to doing another one at some point. 100k show, as Peony Ween says, which, to be fair, we're very close to on the Arsenal way. We're like less than 8,000 subs over there from 100k, which is kind of crazy. Yeah, it's gonna be great. Is my mic okay? Has it gone weird? Someone said mic in the chat.
sounds a little weird.
Sounds weird, does it?
I thought it sounded all right.
Okay. Okay. You could be mugging me off though, Alex. I could be sounding like an absolute fool right now.
I could be, but it would be no fun if I told you either way, would it? So.
True. Alex, thank you for your time. I think do tell people where they can find you.
Yeah, no, on the Discord server. I've finished with Bournemouth now, for those of you that know. So I'm now back at uni, so no longer in the know about anything related to Bournemouth. So don't ask me.
So it's your fault we didn't sign Tyler Adams then, is that what you're saying? It was all your fault.
Yeah, all my fault. But no, I mean, my Domino's has just arrived. I've just got a ping up on my phone, so I'm gonna go enjoy that. But yeah.
Lovely stuff. Lovely stuff. Thank you to everyone that's tuned in and listened. If the microphone's going weird, I apologize. I'm not sorting it out now because we're at the end of the show. But thank you for listening. Really appreciate it. And I'll be back tomorrow morning at the usual time of 8 a.m. to get more reaction to whatever happens in the next hour, which, I might sound messy or something. Thanks, guys. Have a great day, great evening, great morning, wherever you happen to be in the world. And as always, up the Arsenal.